Have you ever wondered why Johnny Depp's performances feel so real, so raw, and sometimes even painful to watch? It's like you can sense there's something deeper behind those eyes. Something broken, something honest. Johnny Depp isn't just acting. He's channeling something from deep inside. Something that, believe it or not, was born out of pain. Yeah. The same man who made us laugh as Captain Jack Sparrow, who melted hearts as Edward Scissorhands, and who terrified us as Sweeney Todd. His greatest work didn't just come from talent or training. It came from a lifetime of scars that the world rarely sees, and today we're going to talk about that hidden wound. The one that shaped his art, his career, and maybe even the man himself. If you've been following the ups and downs of Johnny Depp, the movies, the trials, the headlines, the heartbreak, you're definitely not the only one. Everyone seems to have an opinion about him. But this isn't about taking sides or digging into gossip. This is about understanding the story behind the man, the pain behind the art, so stick with me for a bit. Because by the end of this story, you might look at Johnny Depp in a completely new way. Let's rewind. Before the fame, before the crazy roles and the big Hollywood paychecks, there was just Johnny, a kid growing up in Owensboro, Kentucky. His childhood wasn't a fairy tale. In fact, it was far from it. He's been open about how hard it was. His parents fought a lot. They moved constantly. It felt like the ground under his feet was always shifting. He once said his childhood was turbulent, and that he was the one who tried to make peace when his parents fought. Imagine that, being the peacemaker at 10 years old. Trying to calm down adults when you're still just a kid yourself. That kind of thing leaves marks. Not the kind you can see, but the kind that shape how you see the world. And for Johnny, that chaos made him sensitive. It made him feel deeply. It also made him want to escape. And when you think about it, acting is the ultimate escape, right? You get to become someone else. Someone who isn't you. Someone who doesn't have to deal with the pain you carry inside. That's how it started for Johnny. Acting wasn't about fame or attention. It was about freedom. Stepping into someone else's skin to forget your own story for a while. When you look at his early films, you can already feel that energy. He wasn't just playing characters. He was being them. And if you've ever watched Edward Scissorhands, you probably know exactly what I mean. That character, that lonely soul who just wants to be loved but doesn't know how to fit in, that's pure Johnny. You can see it in the way he moves, the way he looks at the world with those sad eyes. That movie wasn't just a story about an outcast. It was a mirror of how Johnny felt growing up. Always different, always misunderstood, always on the outside looking in, and then came Jack Sparrow, the role that turned him into a global icon. At first glance, Jack seems like the total opposite of Edward Scissorhands. He's wild, funny, unpredictable, larger than life. But if you look closer, there's something underneath all that swagger. A kind of loneliness. A sense of a man running from something. Johnny once said he based Jack on rock legends like Keith Richards. You know, people who seem cool and confident on the outside but are actually living in chaos on the inside. That's why Jack Sparrow worked, because Depp wasn't faking it. He knew what it was like to live with a storm inside your head and hide it behind a smirk. And then there are his darker roles, like Sweeney Todd or Donnie Brasco. Those performances are full of quiet rage, heartbreak, and emptiness. You can feel his pain bleeding through the screen. It's not acting. It's therapy. It's almost like every movie he's done has been another way of working through his past. Every character gives him a way to express what words can't. That's why people connect with him so deeply. Because when he's in a role, he's not pretending. He's releasing something real. But fame doesn't make pain disappear. In fact, sometimes it makes it worse. And as the years went on, Johnny's private life started becoming public. The headlines, the court cases, the endless media frenzy. It was everywhere. People were picking sides, making memes, arguing online. It became entertainment for the world. But behind all that noise, there was still a person. A man dealing with heartbreak, humiliation, and exhaustion. While everyone else was talking about him, Johnny stayed mostly quiet. And instead of fighting back with words, he turned to what he's always done best, art. When things got really tough, Johnny didn't disappear. He started painting. He started playing music again. He poured everything he couldn't say into his art. He once said, "I think the truth comes out in what you create, not what you say." That hits hard, doesn't it? Because while the world was debating what was true or false in the tabloids, Johnny was just creating, processing, healing. He began painting portraits, haunting emotional images of the people who shaped his life. He painted Heath Ledger, Al Pacino, Elizabeth Taylor, people who, like him, lived complicated, beautiful, and often painful lives. And those paintings? They're stunning. You can see every emotion, every scar, every ounce of soul in them. It's like each stroke of paint is another confession, another truth he couldn't say out loud. And that's the thing about Johnny Depp. His art has always been his language. Whether it's a movie role, a song, or a painting, it's his way of saying, "Here I am. This is me. This is what I feel." Critics often talk about how layered his performances are, how you can never quite pin down what he's thinking. That's because every role is a mix of character and reality, of who he's playing and who he really is. Even in his interviews, he's soft-spoken, reflective, and sometimes almost shy. He doesn't act like a celebrity. He acts like someone who's just trying to make sense of everything, his past, his fame, his pain, and maybe that's why people still root for him. Even after all the chaos, all the controversy, there's this sense that he's still human, that he's flawed but honest, broken but still creating. You can see it in how he handles things. He doesn't lash out, he doesn't play the victim. He just keeps working, keeps expressing, keeps transforming the pain into something meaningful. There's something almost poetic about that. The idea that what once hurt him the most is now the thing that gives his life purpose. And here's something a lot of people don't know. There's a rumored documentary in the works about his art. His music and his comeback. Not the courtroom comeback, but the personal one. The journey of a man finding peace after years of turmoil. Can you imagine that? Seeing Johnny not as a character, not as a headline, but as a man rebuilding himself through creativity. Because at the end of the day, maybe pain doesn't go away. Maybe it just changes shape. Maybe it becomes something you live with, something that drives you, and for Johnny, that's exactly what it seems to have done. His pain didn't destroy him. It made him who he is. It's easy to forget that behind every celebrity there's a real person. Someone who hurts, someone who struggles, someone who's trying to make sense of life just like the rest of us. And when you watch Johnny on screen, that's what makes him stand out. You don't just see a performance, you feel something. You feel the years of experience, the heartbreak, the lessons, the longing. He's not perfect. He's not pretending to be. And maybe that's why so many people still love him. Because in a world of fake smiles and perfect images, Johnny Depp is painfully, beautifully real, and maybe that's what true artistry is, turning your deepest wounds into something that touches others. Now think about this. How many of his characters do you remember? Probably most of them, right? There's a reason for that. Every single one feels alive because he puts a piece of himself into them. Edward Scissorhands, that gentle, lonely boy who wants to be accepted. That's the side of Johnny that still remembers feeling different as a kid. Jack Sparrow, the charming trickster who hides pain behind laughter. That's the side of him that knows how to smile even when things fall apart. Sweeney Todd, the broken man who's lost everything. That's the side that's felt grief and betrayal. It's like his whole filmography is a diary, a map of his emotions. And maybe that's why his fans stick with him through everything. Because when he's on screen, we're not watching an act. We're watching truth, disguised as fiction. He's a reminder that pain doesn't have to define you. It can fuel you. It can push you to create, to transform, to rise above everything that tried to pull you down. Johnny Depp's story isn't just about fame or controversy. It's about a man who took every bruise, every heartbreak, and every whisper behind his back and turned them into something meaningful. He's proof that sometimes the very things that try to break us end up building our strength. You see, pain is a strange teacher. It doesn't come gently and it rarely feels fair. But for some people, like Johnny, it becomes the spark that lights up something inside, something powerful. While others might run from their pain or try to bury it, Johnny chose to face it in his own way. Through acting, through music, through painting, through art. That's been his therapy, his confession, his form of survival. Every time he steps into a role, it's like he's saying, here's a part of my story, hidden behind this character. And that's what makes his performances so unforgettable. He doesn't fake emotions, he lives it. When you see the sorrow in his eyes or the weight in his silence, that's real. It's not just acting technique, it's experience. He's channeling the chaos, the heartbreak, and the loneliness that have been a part of him since childhood. And when the cameras stop rolling, his art doesn't. When the world gets loud, when the headlines spin out of control, he retreats to what he knows best: creativity. For him, art isn't about money or fame. It's about peace. It's about taking something ugly and turning it into something beautiful. Painting has become a huge part of that for him. Each canvas is like a private journal filled with emotions he might never say out loud. When you look at his portraits, you can feel it. The depth, the love, the pain, the nostalgia. They're like silent poems written in color and light. His music carries that same energy. When he picks up his guitar, it's not for performance. It's for release. He plays with that same kind of emotion that made his acting so powerful. The melodies are raw, honest, and full of feeling. You can tell he's not trying to impress anyone. He's just trying to breathe. For Johnny, art is oxygen. It's the thing that keeps him moving when everything else feels heavy. And let's be honest, fame can be cruel. It turns private pain into public entertainment. Every mistake becomes a headline. Every moment of weakness becomes a meme. Most people wouldn't survive that kind of spotlight. But Johnny somehow does. He doesn't fight it with anger. He doesn't try to prove himself with loud statements. He just keeps creating, keeps showing up, keeps doing what he loves. That quiet resilience, that's his strength. He's been called many things over the years. A rebel, a genius, a troublemaker, a misunderstood soul. But through it all, he's never stopped being an artist. And maybe that's the secret. Art doesn't judge. It doesn't gossip. It just listens. It gives you a place to put the pain so it doesn't destroy you. For Johnny, it's been his anchor, the thing that reminds him who he is when the world tries to tell him otherwise. His art has been his escape, yes, but it's also been his truth. It's where he finds balance between the chaos outside and the calm he's always searching for inside. Every stroke of paint, every chord he strums, every line he delivers on screen, it's all part of that same journey. The journey of turning pain into purpose. The journey of finding light in the darkness. And that's what makes his story so powerful. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about using what hurts you to create something that heals you. Johnny's life is proof that art isn't just something you make. It's something that saves you. His art has been his constant companion, his outlet, his reminder that even when life gets messy, there's always a way to turn it into something beautiful, because no matter what the world says, his art has always spoken louder. And maybe that's all that really matters. Even his music tells the same story. When he's on stage playing guitar, you can tell he's not performing for applause. He's expressing something. You can see the relief in his face. Like for those few minutes, the weight disappears. He said before that he doesn't really care about the fame. He cares about creating, about connecting, about finding meaning in the madness. And that's something we can all relate to, right? We all go through pain. We all carry wounds we don't talk about. But what if, instead of hiding them, we used them? What if we turned them into something beautiful? Like he did. That's what makes Johnny's story so powerful. It's not about scandal or success. It's about survival. He's proof that pain doesn't always end in destruction. Sometimes it leads to transformation. So maybe the question isn't, what happened to Johnny Depp? Maybe the real question is, what did pain teach him? And maybe it taught him how to feel, how to create, how to forgive, and how to keep moving forward, even when the world feels against you. Because here's the thing. The world loves to judge, but art doesn't. Art listens. It understands. It heals, and that's exactly what Johnny's been doing all along, healing through art. So what do you think? Do you believe Johnny's pain is what made him the incredible artist he is today? Or do you think Hollywood has been too harsh on one of its most misunderstood stars? I'd love to know your thoughts, and if you enjoy diving deep into the real stories behind the people we think we know, you're going to love our next one. The truth about Keanu Reeves' kindness, what he doesn't want you to know. That one will surprise you too. Before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell, not just for gossip, but for the real stories that remind us we're all human. Because sometimes, the most unforgettable people aren't the ones who've had perfect lives. They're the ones who've learned how to turn their pain into something beautiful, and Johnny Depp, he's living proof of that.